There's a conversation happening inside you right now. A constant secret dialogue between two of your most powerful organs. It's influencing your mood, your decisions, and your health in ways we are only just beginning to wrap our heads around. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on that hidden conversation.
We've all said it, right? I just have a gut feeling about this. We use it to describe that deep intuition, that sense of knowing something without really knowing how you know it. For centuries, we've felt this connection. But what if it's more than just a metaphor? What if that feeling is a literal biological signal being sent from your gut to your brain? And this idea, it's not new at all. In fact, it's ancient. Over 2,000 years ago, the Greek physician Hippocrates made this incredibly bold claim. For a long time, it was kind of dismissed. But it turns out he was way ahead of his time. Modern science is now showing us that the gut is a central player in a huge range of diseases, way beyond just an upset stomach. Okay, so to really get this, we've got to change how we think about the gut. It is not just a tube for processing food. It is so incredibly complex, lined with millions of its own neurons, that scientists have given it a pretty cool nickname, our second brain. And this connection between our two brains is basically a super highway of information. It's not a one-way street either. Signals are constantly traveling up from the gut to the brain, mostly through that big vagus nerve. At the same time, the brain sends messages back down. It's this constant two-way feedback loop, and the conductors of this whole orchestra? Trillions of tiny microbes in your gut. All right, so there's a fancy scientific name for this whole setup, the microbiota gut-brain axis. It's really just a formal way of saying that your brain, your gut, and the trillions of bacteria living inside you are all connected. They are one single integrated system. And understanding this axis is changing pretty much everything we thought we knew about health. But what happens when that conversation gets disrupted, when the signals get crossed, or worse, the line goes dead? Well, the consequences, it turns out, can be profound, reaching right into the deepest parts of our brain. And look, this isn't just some wild idea. The data is starting to paint a really clear picture. Scientists are finding these consistent patterns. For major brain conditions, from depression to Alzheimer's, we see these clear links where certain types of good inflammation-fighting bacteria are missing, or the bad ones are starting to take over. The takeaway here is simple but powerful. An unhealthy gut often means an unhealthy brain. So how does this actually happen? Well, take a look. On the left, you've got these stressors, things like a bad diet, an infection, maybe a round of antibiotics. These things can damage the lining of our gut. This creates what people call a leaky gut. And that allows these inflammatory molecules to escape into the bloodstream. From there, they can travel all the way up to the brain, cross its protective barrier, and trigger inflammation right there in the brain itself. And that is a huge factor in so many brain disorders. So we've established that these tiny microbes are talking to the brain. But how? How on earth do bacteria send such powerful messages? Well, it turns out they speak a chemical language, and our body is fluent. I want you to picture your gut microbiome not as just passive hitchhikers along for the ride. No way. They are an army of tiny chemical factories, working 24/7. They're constantly breaking down parts of our food and churning out this incredible array of molecules that have powerful effects all over our bodies. And get this, some of the chemicals they're cranking out are ones you've definitely heard of. We're talking about neurotransmitters, chemicals like serotonin and GABA that literally regulate our mood. It's absolutely stunning to realize that a huge portion of these chemicals aren't made in our brain at all. They're being produced by bacteria in our gut. And then there are these things called short-chain fatty acids, or SCFAs for short. These are amazing little compounds that get produced when our gut bacteria chow down on the fiber we eat. They're not just fuel for our gut cells, they can actually travel through our blood all the way to the brain, where they help keep the blood-brain barrier strong and fight inflammation. That's a direct link. The fiber on your plate is connected to the health of your brain. Now, it's not all sunshine and roses. There's a dark side to this too. Certain bacteria can also produce some pretty nasty, toxic stuff. And if they're not kept in check by a healthy, diverse microbiome, these toxins can damage our protective barriers, sneak into the brain, and cause some serious problems. It's all about balance in that ecosystem. So this is where it all comes together. This image really shows the whole communication network in action. You can see there are multiple routes for these messages. Some molecules, like those SCFAs, can just hop into the bloodstream and travel directly to the brain. Others work more locally, right there in the gut, by tickling the nerve endings that then send a super fast signal right up the vagus nerve. It's a beautifully complex system. You see, understanding all this, it's a total game changer. Because if a broken connection can cause such massive problems, it leads to a really hopeful and powerful question. Can we actively step in, fix it, and rewire this connection for better health? And the answer, which is just so incredibly exciting, is a resounding yes. This isn't science fiction. This is the future of medicine, and it is happening right now. We're already building an amazing toolkit to do just that. We've got new drugs that are designed to tap into these gut-brain signals for things like weight management. We're using targeted probiotics to help restore balance, and even specific diets are showing amazing promise by changing the microbiome. And of course, the simplest one of all, just eating more fiber. You're literally feeding the good guys who work so hard for you. So what does this all mean for the future? Well, it's pointing to a massive shift, a whole new way of looking at what it means to be healthy. We're really standing at the edge of a new frontier here. What it really means is we have to stop thinking of ourselves as, well, just ourselves. The scientific term for this is a holobiont. It basically means a whole being, a single entity that's made of us, the host, and this vast community of microbes living with us. Our health isn't just our health, it's the health of our entire ecosystem. And that leaves us with one final kind of mind-bending thought. For decades, when we've looked for answers to mental and neurological health, we've looked almost exclusively inside the skull. But what if some of the most powerful answers are somewhere else entirely? What if the key to a healthier brain is, and always has been, in our gut?